Hello friends, Lee here from TableTop Bong. Thanks for joining me. In this video, I thought we could hang out, have a fun sesh, and we could check out the Utillian 723 dry herb vaporizer. I thought we could put this thing through its paces and see how it performs. 723 has been on the market for a little bit of time now at the time of recording this video, and it is definitely getting some pretty good reviews. So I thought, why not spend some time and we'll put this thing to the test together and you can see the outcome. What we're going to do today is we're going to run through the 4 different presets and the boost mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to run through this Purple Heart tabletop bong, just utilizing a whip hose to connect the vaporizer to the bong. And we're going to use the bong as basically a glass lung. So you can see exactly what to expect at each different temperature. And we'll talk about the experience as I go through it. So there's not that much to talk about the device itself really before we get into using it, but I'm going to go over the basics of the device very, very quickly. So number one, the top of the device has this really attractive zirconia mouthpiece. Now with the zirconia mouthpiece, they're not always the greatest. You know, they can get hot toward the end of a sesh. If you're really pushing on your vaporizer, you can find that your mouthpiece may get hot. But with this particular vaporizer, I'm not finding that happening at all, to be honest. I have been pushing it, and I can tell you what, I can push on a vaporizer pretty good, my friends. And I'm still not getting this mouthpiece to be where I would say it's even in the neighborhood of uncomfortable. I could get a little bit of heat into it, but it's warm. It's not, not even close to hot. So, definitely the mouthpiece is super cool. And then you just have a couple of lights here that show you what's going on. Single function button. Once you open it up, you have your 0.3 gram chamber in here, and you have, of course, the light to tell you what temperature you're on. So we're running 4 presets. The green preset is coming in at 180 degrees Celsius. It's 2 taps of the single function button to change the temperature. So now we're on the blue color, which is 190 degrees Celsius. The pink purple color, I'm not sure which one it is. My eyes aren't that great with colors. But this particular color here that you're seeing is 200 degrees Celsius. This color is my home with this device. I am finding that to be a really great temperature overall with dry herbs. And then this is 210 degrees Celsius. And then if you do this and you hold the button down, you're going to see that starting to flash there. That indicates the fact that we have boost mode engaged, which is going to take this device up to 225 degrees Celsius. So, like I said, very basic functions. It's 5 taps on, 5 taps off, 2 taps to change the temperature, long hold for the boost. So, like I said, there's not really that much to it. On the bottom of the device, you have your air intake is here, and you have your USB-C charging there, and you also have a light down here that indicates your battery indicator. So, you know, it'll change color based on how much battery life you have left. Speaking of the battery, we have a 2300 milliamp battery, which gives you approximately averaged out roughly 60 minutes of straight run time. That's not including heat up times. So that obviously is going to change it. So real world, what that means is if you sesh heavy, you're probably going to get 5 or 6 really good sessions out of a charge, and if you sesh a little bit later, you're going to get 7 or 8 potentially without having to recharge. Now, this does not have pass-through, so you do need to fully charge it, or you need to charge it before use. You cannot use it when it is plugged in. So, that's definitely one of those considerations. But when you're looking at a middle-of-the-road price point, something like this particular item, I paid $200 before tax Canadian for this, so I guess that would be about $150 US was the price that I paid for this. It was on a little bit of a sale, but it wasn't on any kind of a crazy deal. But, you know, Utillian being a T-Vape house brand, I know what to expect. I know that the quality is going to be there, and I know that T-Vape manages, of course, how the product comes out, and, you know, they get the direct consumer feedback and make adjustments at the manufacturing level. So I know that the quality is going to be good, definitely for the price point that's being asked for it. That is something that is, you know, the Utillian brand has been known for. You know, like I said, or maybe I didn't say, I'm not sure, this isn't my first take now, but I do have a couple of other Utillian devices, and I find them to be very consistent quality right across the lineup. I have the 421. I also have the 721, which was 2 iterations ago from this device. So maybe I'll come back and we'll do a comparison, and I'll show you how much Utillian / T-Vape has upped this device in a couple of iterations, which, you know, if you're into the Utillian lineup, which is pretty cool, you might find that one interesting. So yeah, let's get into using this thing now that we know basically what's going on with it. We'll start at, we'll do the 5 tap on, 2 taps to change the temperature. So like I said, we'll go green down to 180 degrees. We'll get in and we'll start ripping on this, and I'll show you what different temperatures look like as we go. Heat up time for this device is approximately 30 seconds. It is primarily convection heating. So what that means is you get into vapor quickly from that 30-second preheat time. You know, you're not waiting around. You know, some devices can heat up in 30 seconds, but it's a minute and a half before you get a half decent draw off it. That's not what's going on here. You can, you know, just kind of rip on this right away. So we'll start here, like I said, at 180, and let's get in, and we'll have a couple of rips, and then I'll just move through the temperatures, and we'll check out what the vapor looks like in this Purple Heart Tabletop Bong. Cheers. Right, most people aren't going to draw on a vaporizer much harder or longer than that. So I figure I'll just kind of work with an average draw, kind of an idea. This device also has a 7-minute session timer for auto off, which is nice. I find 3 minutes a bit annoying, so 7 minutes isn't too bad. So you can see it's starting to thicken up the vapor a little bit now that the device is getting warmer. Very, very satisfying. 180 degrees. This is a beautiful temperature for kind of daytime, lighter activities, physical activity. If you want to have maybe a bowl before a meditation or something like that, this is also a great temperature for that, so you don't get too deep into that stony feeling that you can get sometimes. But the vapor is definitely thick enough that it is satisfying, and the flavor is really quite nice on basically, honestly, through the entire temperature range. It's not just on the lower temperatures with this. Now I've just bumped it up to 190. It's already heated to 190, so let's go ahead. We'll have a couple of puffs here. So you can see at 190 degrees Celsius, we're getting a little bit thicker vapor. It's really quite satisfying. A little bit heavier of an effect. Still not bad for daytime use, but you know, if you start pushing too many bowls at that temperature, you might start feeling a little more like evening than you than you thought if it's early in the morning. So now coming in at 200, this is a really nice middle of the road temperature with this device. You know, it's giving you a nice thick vapor. You're still hanging on to some really nice flavor. You're not burning off all of the terpenes at this temperature, and it is satisfying. Let's have another rip. So I find kind of an all-around, that I would say is an evening type of an effect for me anyway, right? I find that as the day progresses, my temperatures get a little bit warmer until right at the end of the night, you know, I'm hitting pretty thick clouds. All right, so now I bumped this up to 210 degrees Celsius. So I'll show you sort of at your top preset what this looks like, and then we'll boost mode it for a rip. Cheers. We're definitely getting into thicker vapor here. More intensified effects, but diminishing flavor. Definitely the vapor's a little bit hotter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press and hold the single button. And we'll run this right up to 225 degrees Celsius. And we'll give it one good rip to finish this bowl off. Cheers. Some thick vapor. You start boost moding with this thing and it definitely slaps. It hits good and hard. I have such a sensitive terp tickle right now. I've been maybe vaping a little bit too much as of late. And the sour diesel that I'm vaping today is really terpy. So I'm going to just show you right here what we're looking at. Right, you can see how evenly that is vaporized, and we took that all the way through. We had a good number of rips on that. 2, 4, 6, 8, probably 9 or 10 rips on that single 0.3 of a gram load in the chamber. So, you know, it's definitely quite efficient in that way. It was pretty smooth all the way through. Now, when it comes to concentrates, it comes with this concentrate cup. This is a stainless steel cup, and it's like screen wires, metal plates with holes that are on top of each other with offsets in the holes, so that you could drop your dab in there, and it's going to vaporize off of the stainless steel here at the bottom of this dish. Right, that's the goal here. But it won't make it all the way through. It'll just fall somewhere into those plates and vaporize in there. What I'm finding with this, as far as this particular function is concerned with this vaporizer, I'm not really digging it. I'm not really into the concentrate aspect of this Utillian 723. It's just really not, in my opinion, it's not up to standard of what I want for concentrates. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a place where this thing shines right now. Let me go ahead and drop this dish in. I'm going to turn this off. And then I'm going to turn it back on, so that we start that 7-minute timer again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in 3 little pieces of hash. And they're going to sit on top of those plates in the chamber here. I'm going to use small pieces, 3 of them. And then once everything gets heated up nicely, I'm going to activate the boost mode. And I'm going to rip on this hash. And it's not going to give me the thickest clouds. But with hash, I don't want the thickest clouds. That's always going to choke me. What I want is I want flavor. And I definitely want some density in the clouds. So let me just show you. See that hash sitting down in the bottom there, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to let that sit just for a second and let that dish heat up a little bit more. But because it's, you know, primarily convection, it's not going to get too warm sitting like this. So I'm just letting it take a little bit of the chill out for, say, 10 seconds or so. Then I'm just going to go ahead and start to draw on this a little bit and pull some heat into that hash. And I'm not activating the boost mode yet. I'm just, I'm taking some real low temperature sips on this hash just in the beginning. the vapor is barely visible right now as this is heating up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to activate by pressing the button. I'm going to activate the boost mode. And then I'm going to start to draw on a little bit harder. This can really take a good draw. The airflow through this device is quite good, so we can go ahead and we can rip on it. Now we can start to get that hash good and hot. Now I'm going to take my finger off of the button for a second and just let it kind of calm down. And then just boost mode again. I just pulled a little heat out there with one puff. Go boost mode again and start ripping again. This is a very, very satisfying hash experience. As you just sit with it and you just kind of sip on it, you know, the vapor gets a little bit thicker as you go. It's not going to get a whole lot thicker than that. This isn't about the thickest vapor. This is about flavor and a bit of a lighter experience. You know, hash doesn't always have to, you know, knock you in the couch, even if it's indica and you vape it this way. If you control your dose, you can definitely, you know, not have to get into that really heavy experience from hash. I just like giving them, you know, just little puffs, right? Just puff, 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 and just pull the heat through the concentrate cup and the hash, and just kind of take the vapor off the edges as much as I can, and it does a really nice job of giving a really, really interesting hash buzz. So, you know, that's kind of my, that's where I'm giving this thing the nod and saying, if you're really into hash and dry herbs, this one's definitely a fun one to play around with the hash. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, take care.